So in this video, I'm going to talk about how I manage my adrenal disease through diet and supplements as opposed to going on steroids. If you don't know what going on steroids does to you, it's not pretty. It comes with a lot of side effects and long-term consequences. Short-term steroid use is a lot different and a lot safer. And in an emergency situation, I would need an injectable. Like if I was in a car accident or my blood pressure got too low for whatever reason, that's a time when you are going to need steroids. However, taking them on a daily basis is going to basically kill any function that is left, and you're going to have to stay on them for the rest of your life. And given my knowledge about alternative medicine and supplements and nutrition, I was pretty confident I was going to be able to avoid that, even though the doctors were really insistent I needed to go on steroids long term. But I've got the blood test to prove it now. Like, what I'm doing is working. So I'm going to start with diet, because you can't supplement your way back to health if you're putting the wrong things in your mouth. For some people, depending on the root of the adrenal disease, you may need to do like a full AIP diet. That's initially what I started with, because when someone has adrenal disease, it's not uncommon for them to get like secondary diseases with that. And for me, I started getting a lot of inflammatory bowel disease symptoms. My thyroid was overacting. I was having a lot of menopause symptoms, even though I was only 32 at the time, as well as hallucinations and wicked rashes. Anytime I ate beef or a sulfur-rich food, just terrible rashes. And I've eaten beef my whole life without a problem. So around 2015, I definitely knew something was wrong, and I started trying to figure out what it was. The diet, I personally just have to avoid the foods that are well documented at suppressing cortisol. There's a couple other foods I have to avoid because they cause the IBD symptoms to act up, but they don't directly suppress the cortisol, but by causing inflammation in other parts of my body, it causes the adrenal glands to work harder. The adrenal glands are essentially the braking system of your inflammatory response. So anything we can do to reduce inflammation in our body, especially the digestive tract, because people with like inflammatory disorders and autoimmune diseases have bad gut inflammation. This has been well documented by the allopathic medical community for decades. However, this information has gone largely ignored. In the functional medicine world, however, they do take a stance on this, and they are very firm on that you need to get gut inflammation as well as other inflammation in the body under control if you want to get over an autoimmune disease, or at least get it into remission. So the foods you really need to avoid are whey. Dairies that contain whey protein, isolate or concentrate, anything with whey in it, or it says whey, you're gonna have to avoid. Powdered milk, if you see that in an ingredient, that's got whey in it. Most dairy products do, except for like really hard cheeses. Greek yogurt doesn't have whey in it because it's been strained off, and a few other ones. Soy is the other one that really suppresses cortisol. Soy protein isolate, soy lecithin. Soy milk is mostly water. I do use soy milk with my coffee. Coffee actually increases cortisol levels. So does alcohol and refined sugar. But soy milk, like I said, is mostly water, so those little small amounts don't affect me. Zinc. Zinc is another one. In normal food doses, it's not an issue, but in supplement doses, big problem. Same with omega-3s. Small amounts, not an issue. Large doses suppresses the cortisol production big time. And that's it for diet. Not very complicated. Is there anything else I can? No, it's not much. Yeah, it's actually pretty simple diet-wise. The supplements, though, the first thing I started taking was the betaine HCl. This is synthetic stomach acid. It's important that food is broken down completely so it doesn't cause inflammation in the digestive tract. This is the first thing I started taking even before I knew it was my adrenal glands. I'm not even sure how I don't remember how I figured out to start taking this. I just maybe had an idea. Like, beef is really hard to digest, and I thought maybe if I try taking extra stomach acid, maybe I won't get the rash, and it worked. And it was a little frustrating because the first time I went to a doctor to try to get help, they were like looking at me like, "What are you doing here? You've already figured out your solution." To which I was like, no, I'd like to know why my stomach has stopped making its own acid. This is a serious health problem." But again, they were no help. The other thing for digestion is digestive enzymes. So this one, it works in the stomach to break foods down. This one works in the small intestine. I was already taking this for my acne problem, so I just kept taking it. I was eating dairy at the time, so I didn't need to supplement a probiotic. Probiotics are the last part of digestion. They work in the colon, which is the last segment of the digestive tract. So if you don't eat dairy, well, you really can't anyway. So it's important to get some probiotics. Little Greek yogurt's okay, because like that one doesn't have whey in it. The other supplement I was also taking was L-Glutamine. Because I had so many inflammatory bowel disease symptoms, this is to help rebuild the digestive tract. It helps just the tissue regenerate. The tissue in the digestive tract goes through a lot of wear and tear, so sometimes it just needs a boost to help rebuild itself. The doses on the internet will say between 5 grams and 40 grams are what you want to take. For me, I tried to do like the 40 grams, and this can affect the blood sugar. For some people, it levels it out. For me, it caused it to go up, and it gave me a wicked yeast infection. So I take a much lower dose now. I did find one medical study that showed for a person of my weight, which is about 145 pounds or 66 kilos, that about 15 grams is the dose where you start to see benefit. So I do the 15 grams in the morning. You want to take amino acids on an empty stomach. If you take them with a meal, they will compete with other amino acids to get absorbed, and you'll have to take a lot more. So take them on an empty stomach, they go a lot farther. The next supplement here is Cordyceps. This is another well-studied here in the United States as well as Europe and China. This originates out of traditional Chinese medicine. It actually works for a number of different conditions, not just adrenal disease. It also boosts energy because it increases ATP production, which is really important because you're always super tired when your adrenal glands don't work. I was taking about a 5-gram dose. I was able to reduce that, and I did have to stop taking all my supplements when I moved, and I'll explain that a little later. But after I did stop them, I maintained all my gains. I have restarted them now that I'm back in the United States and have access to all these things, but I'll get to that a little later. Boswellia, this is the next one. It also goes by the name Indian frankincense. This one also very well studied. It's been put up against placebo as well as current Crohn's medication, and it was shown to be more effective than our leading Crohn's medication we have today. It comes out of Ayurvedic, like traditional Indian medicine. I was taking about a 2,400 milligram dose. With both of these, it was a divided dose. I wasn't taking the whole amount in one shot. I was splitting it between 3 meals. This is the main purpose this serves. It's an anti-inflammatory. It's like I said, it's really important to control inflammation because the adrenal glands are the braking system of our inflammatory response, and anything we can do to help there is going to ease their stress and burden. And those were the 3 supplements I take. And then, as I said, I had to discontinue them. So I was living in the Czech Republic at the time, and in Eastern Europe, you just don't have access to things like this like you do in the United States. It's a much poorer country. People can't afford these things always, so they just don't stock them. And getting them shipped in costs a lot of money because you have to pay customs charges and taxes. And yeah, I was shipping them into the Czech Republic, what I could get. But when we ended up moving to Ukraine, it was just impossible to get these things in Ukraine, so I had to stop taking them. I, however, managed to maintain the gains I had gotten in my hormones. I still kept the diet, but without the supplements, my levels stayed where I got them to. When I first had my blood checked and was able to like really identify that it was my adrenal glands that weren't working, my cortisol level was at 101. Normal range is about 185 to 685. So with all of this, and it within 2 months, actually, I didn't even have to take these things for very long, I was able to bring up my cortisol to 130. And the difference was night and day. I had all of my energy back. I was able to eat beef without getting the rash, because a few times I had ordered supplements and the new ones didn't arrive before I ran out, so I was forced to eat without them. But yeah, that's the 29-point difference made all the change. What else? So now that I'm back in the United States, I have restarted all of these, plus 3 more. I found out I had a tennis ball size fibroid on my uterus. So the 3 supplements I have introduced are more focused on getting rid of the fibroid. The fibroid may or may not have anything to do with the fact that I was only able to get my cortisol up to 130. And we'll find out. It's too early for me to do a part 2 and tell you about these new supplements because I have to give it a few months and then I have to go get my blood checked again and go have another ultrasound to see if the fibroid's pretty big. I could see it if it shrank, I guess. So yeah, stay tuned for part 2. I hope you found this educational. You can manage your disease without steroids.